Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get started to be respectful of everybody's time. Plus, we have a jam-packed agenda today with some fabulous, fabulous speakers. We can't wait for you to hear. Welcome to those of you that are joining us online. I appreciate you being here and participating in today's conversation. My name is Terry Kimball, and I'm the President and CEO here at the Chandler Chamber, and obviously education is really important to us. Today's topic is how does AI, artificial intelligence integration, really affect you? And if we're seeing it in all forms of business. In fact, I was telling somebody earlier, I happened to be at the local grocery store the other day, and on the end cap, I walked up to take a look at the sign, and of course it was reading me, and all of a sudden it started spitting out coupons on what they thought I would be interested in. That's why my husband likes me to do the pickup, right? So, but it does affect all of us in each of our daily lives. So we will hear from Cristina Ortiz with Intel, and Cristina is joining us online. Habib Matar is with the Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning Instructor at Chandler-Gilbert Community College. And I'm really excited for you to hear because they're getting ready to launch their first set of graduates from that program. And then Gabriela Rosu, she is the Dean of Instruction at Chandler-Gilbert Community College, and regarding the new AI certificate program, which is very exciting. This event would not be possible without our sponsors, Intel, Air Products, Arizona State University, and Wells Fargo. I'd also like to thank Representative Jennifer Pollack for joining us and being here in the room, so thank you.
So without further ado, see they've already, Without further ado, we're going to introduce today's moderator, Jason Conrad. Jason is the Senior Director of Operations here at NXP Semiconductors here in Chandler, and is also a member of our Education and Workforce Committee. He is currently the factory manager at one of the two NXP semiconductor plants here in Chandler at the Alma School site. After graduating from the University of Notre Dame with a bachelor's in chemical engineering in 2000, he joined Motorola in Austin, Texas. He has been in the semiconductor industry for his 22-year career. His career is taking him from Texas, Ohio to Malaysia, back to Texas, and now to Chandler. Hopefully you're here to stay for the past 2 years. He loves to travel, play golf, and is fully devoted to raising his two daughters, who are 2 years old and 11 weeks old. So this man gets no sleep. Please put your hands together and welcome Jason. They cut me off. They want to hear from you.
Perfect. Thank you, Terry. To start today's event, we will first be hearing an update from our virtual speaker, Cristina Ortiz, AI Education Manager, Global Government Affairs at Intel. Cristina Ortiz manages digital readiness programs in North and South America for Intel Corporation's Global Government Affairs organization. She has lived in Arizona, Chandler, for over 20 years and holds a BS in Industrial Engineering, a master's in engineering from Arizona State, and is PMP certified. Cristina has worked in multiple disciplines, including industrial engineering, learning and development, and program management, with previous roles in corporate affairs and strategic manufacturing planning. In her free time, she enjoys playing board games with her husband and 2 teenage kids, and spectating her soccer games and band performances. Cristina, as always, thank you so much for being here with us today. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you. Can you see the slides that I'm presenting? Can someone let me know?
Yes.
Okay, great. So thank you and good morning to everyone. Apologies that I couldn't attend in person today, but I've been fighting through a cold here. So thanks to the Chandler Chamber for flexibility and allowing me to join virtually. So my name is Cristina Ortiz, and I represent Intel's Government Partnerships and Initiatives Group. So that means I have the honor of working with great partners such as Maricopa County Community College District. So today, I want to share a little bit about our Intel AI for Workforce program, which is an AI education program that we started right here in Chandler with Chandler-Gilbert Community College to get learners access to AI skills. And we're going to go into that in some detail myself, as well as the Chandler-Gilbert team. But I really first wanted to take a step back and talk about things really at a national level. So the future of work is changing. So there's a ton of studies out there. This one is by World Economic Forum. There's really a shift of work that's happening currently and will continue over the next decade. The shift in division of work that will happen between human and machine. So there's different studies out there, in terms of numbers of what impact this is going to have to the workforce. But I think something that we've seen consistently is that a good chunk of the workforce, right here up to 40%, will need some type of reskilling or upskilling in their jobs to adjust to how that change of work is happening due to automation and AI. So if we think about that at the national level, so in the US, we really need the right workforce with the right skills to remain competitive as these changes happen, right? So a couple of things that studies have showed us is that the workforce of tomorrow is going to need several things. So they will need advanced knowledge of their industry that they're in, but they're also going to need critical social skills, as well as a really increased understanding of the impact of their work on social responsibility. So we're seeing this is happening globally. Within the US, it's definitely true here as well. We will have a gap between the skills that need automation and AI, or sorry, the jobs that need automation and AI, and the skill sets that our workers currently have. So following the pandemic, there's really never been a more important time to provide people around the country with more opportunities to take advantage of developments in technology and digital transformation. It's really imperative to reskill Americans for future employment opportunities. Let's see. So according to a survey by Dell and Intel, artificial intelligence and machine learning are areas of study most anticipated to increase in demand over the next 3 years. So we live in a very digital world where technology is increasingly central to all of our aspects of human existence. So here's just a little graph that shows, the number of jobs will increase that need some amount of AI tech skills. There'll be a high number of jobs. And then there'll be a subset that need those really deep technical primary AI skills, but a vast amount of all of jobs will now be impacted by AI. So one summary here is that AI is everywhere, but the AI talent is not everywhere yet, right? We do have a gap worldwide and within the US on the workers that have these AI skills versus the jobs that need them. All right, so we talk about, a lot of people talk about AI being the future, but AI is already here, really, and it's touching all aspects of business and industry. There's some examples here on the screen. So all aspects of business, including government and education. So I'll just give you a few examples. If you've ridden in a car that was manufactured in the last few years, you've probably experienced some type of AI technology. Maybe that's lane keep assistance or adaptive cruise control. If you've had any imaging done, maybe an MRI lately, often there's AI algorithms behind that, narrowing in on areas of concern for a radiologist. Something as simple as, I think I just take for granted every day, maybe asking Siri or, hey, Google, what's the weather like today, right? Or if you've done any online shopping, nowadays, there's always a chat bot that pops up and asks, can I help you? What's your experience? So these are all forms of AI. It's already here and it's all around us. Artificial technology is rapidly accelerating with new tools and technology and applications. So this requires our workers to also learn new skills. And at Intel, we believe that the AI technology should be shaped by different voices and experiences and backgrounds. So a little bit about Intel and why we're involved in the AI for Workforce program. So Intel's mission our purpose is to create world-changing technology that improves the lives of every person on the planet, which is a pretty big, meaty vision, but we really take this seriously. We're creating technology and we want that to have a positive impact on the planet. Additionally, inclusion is one of our core values at Intel, and we've really taken steps to try and improve inclusiveness within our workplace, and we're working to improve the tech industry as a whole. This is how we can enable all people to achieve their fullest potential, right? And how we cultivate diverse perspectives. Diverse perspectives will drive, faster innovation. Excuse me. However, we also understand that we can't achieve meaningful change without addressing the systematic and structural inequalities that impact our communities. So we at Intel feel we have a great responsibility to drive change in the world. And that's why we announced our 2030 RISE goals. So this is really reinforcing Intel's commitment to responsible, inclusive, sustainable, and enabling leadership. Part of this commitment is to expand digital readiness by partnering with governments in 30 countries and 30,000 institutions worldwide to empower more than 30 million people with digital readiness skills, including AI, to help make technology more inclusive. Okay, now we get to talk a little about Chandler-Gilbert. So the demand for AI skills is expected to just keep growing exponentially over the last decade. So back in 2020, Intel recognized the need to really prepare our current and our future workers with technical AI skills. So we partnered with Maricopa County Community College District to create a curriculum for students to pursue the first of its kind associate's degree in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Intel chose to partner with community colleges because they attract a broad group of students with a variety of backgrounds, and we feel that this can help diversify AI. Overall, we know that community colleges have long served as the go-to place for people to acquire new skills. And by partnering with Maricopa, the AI for Workforce program will help address the long-term AI skilling gap. And it'll also allow more diverse sets of folks, AI skill sets and mindsets to that larger workforce. So a little bit here, there's just a few pictures, Professor Habib, that you'll hear from in a minute, some of the students in the program. A couple key points is that this really was a community partnership. So yes, it was kind of a collaboration between Intel and Chandler-Gilbert Community College and the overall Maricopa district, but they also had support from Arizona Commerce Authority. So it really was a community effort. A thing that I think Chandler-Gilbert is proud of and I'm proud of is that the program, was open, it was advertised, and it's really been a diverse mix of students that have enrolled in the program. So traditional students, a year or two out of high school, to experienced folks that already have a degree and want to come back and skill up in the latest technology, folks that have been out of the workforce and wanted to skill up on the latest stuff. So it's really attracted a really diverse mix of students, and I think that's pretty exciting. Since we launched the AI for Workforce program back in the fall of 2020 here in Chandler, we've actually expanded way beyond Arizona now. We have over 30 schools in 18 states that have been trained on the program. And in December, we just announced a partnership with the American Association of Community Colleges and Dell to actually bring this AI education program to all 50 states by 2023. So here's a little map. You can see where the program currently is in the navy, and then the light blue is where we're in talks right now to launch a program soon. Excuse me. I just wanted to add that this success of how quickly the AI for Workforce program has grown wouldn't be possible without our amazing partners at the Maricopa District and Chandler-Gilbert Community College, namely Interim Chancellor Dr. Gonzalez, Dean Rosu, Mr. Habib Matar, and Mr. Daniel Barajas. So thanks again to our amazing team. All right, so what exactly is the AI for Workforce program? So I think this is a pretty unique program in that Intel is providing a lot of free information to colleges, but it's different than some other programs that technology companies have done out there. So it's really not a pipeline program. It's not meant to be just feeding employees to Intel. It's really meant to raise the overall AI awareness and technical knowledge, throughout the country, with the thought that, hopefully some of those graduates will end up at Intel. But we want to see them out there in all those different industries that AI is impacting, right? Healthcare, manufacturing, electronics, across the board. So a little bit more about our program. So Intel provides content, which is the meat of the program, over 225 hours of technical AI content that has been built by Intel experts collaborating with different community college professors across the country. We do offer prepackaged courses. They cover different AI domains as well as some social skills and career growth skills, because end of day, this is really a program for students to get jobs. So we know it needs to go deeper than the technical skills and really give them those communication, collaboration skills that are going to make them successful in a workplace. Additionally, we offer standardized implementation. So our program is flexible based on each different community college's need and what their local industries are. But we found it helpful to provide at least some templates in terms of what some implementation models look like. We also train faculty at the community colleges and provide assistance to them as they're launching their programs, technical guidance. Another key component of the program is an AI lab. So the colleges are responsible for having a lab that can support the content. So some, nice PCs, all free open source software. And I think Dean Rosu is going to talk a little bit about the awesome AI lab that just opened down at the Williams campus. And then another key component of our program is demonstrated outcomes. So in our content, we do provide use cases. So meaning the students get hands-on with AI right away. So we don't want this to just be a theoretical program, but we want the students to actually be able to apply AI directly. So we provide use cases, but we also strongly encourage all of our partner community colleges to work with local industry partners to build even more use cases or practical training opportunities, because that's really going to enrich the experience for the student. If they can work with who the local industry is in that community, it's going to make their skills more relevant to get a job when they're done with the program. So here's just a little preview. This is that amazing AI lab that was just opened down at the Williams campus back in March. I think this lab's just really building on the partnership that we've had with Maricopa, and it will just expand access and opportunities to a broad group of students, including those in underrepresented and underserved markets. Now, before I wrap up, I just want to take a moment to ask for help. So Chandler-Gilbert Community College is doing an amazing job with their AI and machine learning program. And they really are the benchmark for the other 30+ colleges around the country. When we're talking about the program with other colleges, they often ask to speak to someone who's already doing the program. And I'd say at least half of our schools have reached out to Maricopa, and they've been great partners willing to share information with new colleges that are coming on board. But as we're meeting initially with those colleges, they asked me what makes a potential college successful at implementation. And I always give them these 5 factors, success factors, of which Maricopa Community Colleges really exemplify. But I just want to tune in on this last one, which is the college's ability to mobilize industry and community partners. So Maricopa has already done this in a few areas, but they can obviously use more help to take their program to the next level. So I'd love all of you to just think about, maybe your business or organization has a problem to solve or an improvement to make, and you have a data set. Chandler-Gilbert Community College students may be able to help you come up with a solution based on that data. It would benefit your organization to get some help, as well as benefit these students to really get their hands on some real world experience. Or maybe you want your employees to get skilled up and at least be aware of the impact of AI. We'll check out the Intro to AI course down at the Chandler-Gilbert Community College and see if that might be a fit. Or maybe you have more advanced skilling needs for your workforce, and Chandler-Gilbert might be willing to customize some workplace training as they've done with other local companies. So I just challenge you all to please just take a moment to think about opportunities to engage with our local community college on their AI and machine learning program. So overall, we know that community colleges have served as the go-to place for people to acquire new skills. And by partnering with Maricopa, the AI for Workforce program is helping to address that AI skilling gap that currently exists, while providing more access to AI skill sets to a larger workforce. We really look forward to seeing the students in action in the lab and in one day in the future workforce leading AI innovation. Thanks so much. And now I think I'm going to turn it over to Dean Rosu from Chandler-Gilbert Community College.
Thank you, Cristina, for that insight into the exciting program that we're about to hear from. I'd like to introduce our next two speakers, Gabriela Rosu and Habib Matar. Gabriela is the Dean of Instruction at Chandler-Gilbert Community College. With over 25 years of experience in higher education and IT industry, Gabriela holds a BS in computer science from Robert Morris University and an MS in multimedia from Duquesne University. She's currently finishing her PhD in psychology from the University of Arizona. As an immigrant to the US, Gabriela has a passion, influence, and deep commitment for diversity, inclusion, and student access for building the next STEM generation. As a girl who dreamed to change how education is shaping women into entrepreneurs, doctors, teachers, and global leaders, Gabriela is a promoter of building strong, sustainable, and equitable educational opportunities. She has presented at numerous conferences and Oxford roundtables on topics in human and global cybersecurity. Habib Matar is an instructor at Chandler-Gilbert Community College, teaching and developing courses in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Habib has been with the AIM program since the beginning in 2019, when Intel approached them with the opportunity to work together. Habib's background is in computer science at ASU, with most of his master's courses diving into artificial intelligence topics. Habib has worked at Intel as a production leader and worked at Northrop Grumman for his internship and as a software engineer for a period of time. Habib has an immense passion for the field of AI, and his personal wish is to take these seemingly difficult topics and make them easier for the general public to understand and grow their careers. Habib's personal hobbies include lots of hiking and sports, such as Frisbee, soccer, weightlifting, video games, and reading. So please welcome me in joining Gabriela and Habib.
I want to start, Jason. First, welcome and congratulations on your baby.
Thank you.
As a 10-year-old parent, my daughter is 10, I was told that you lose sleep, but you're going to lose zero sleep when they are young adults. So just get
Very
prepared.
true.
I know my parents lost all their sleep when I immigrated to the United States when I was 20. So we're going to talk today. I wanted to tap on, of course, what Cristina talk about Intel and why. It's for us, it's more important as an educator and leader, why we're starting a program and what is the purpose of that. So Chandler-Gilbert, when we started, can you start there? Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sure, slide up on this side. Okay. I'm not going to say that I have my background in cybersecurity. So one of the, I don't think I need a microphone. One of the questions that we said why we started the artificial intelligence program. It's pretty much a natural evolution of education and workforce. As a higher education, being a higher education and coming from industry and higher education, we develop programs and then hopefully, the industry is moving forward and hopefully higher education is going to catch up in the next 10 or 20 years. So when we started the artificial intelligence, Intel and us came to the table. We wanted to develop an artificial intelligence. Intel, because how we talked and said, this is what we wanted to create. So we developed the program with the workforce at the table with their input in the program, exactly what are the skills, what they needed. We learn from each other and how that's what we developed. We often hear that technology influences us as a human beings. I will say the other way around. We influence technology and how we change it. Every generation is changing. So with the AI, it's also as a human and bias into it. Everybody thinks that 50% of the population is going to lose their job. I will say the contrary. There will be some job loss, but also there will be a lot of gaining into a new technology. So AI touches every industry sector that we can think. I call it the next internet evolution. So when we started, again, going to the skilling, like why, to try to upskill and reskill the workforce. And Intel being one of the global companies, and Chandler-Gilbert Maricopa, I think that we're the innovating colleges. We came and we designed a program. It's actually went really fast from 2019 when we had the first conversations. It took us a year to go through the training of the faculty, looking at the mapping of the program, implemented the program and launched it in 2020 with the new cohort of students starting graduating in fall 2022 for now. With COVID, we kind of lost track of the time. The timeline that we wanted to show, I wanted to show the timeline that we created, and we're going to go into the program. I want Habib to talk. He's it's not just the example of a faculty that took it to the next step. It's learning. It's having that passion. As a leader, we can have all the passion, ideas, and strategic planning, but without having that passion instilled to your team to implement that, is just a passion and a plan. It's nothing is going to work. So our journey starting in May 2019, with the idea, with coming to the table with Intel, we designed a program, and by May of 2020, we launched what we call a CCL, which is a certificate, and an Associate of Applied Science in Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning. Also what's in a plan, as you know, Ohio, we are allowed to create bachelor's degrees. So our next step is creating a bachelor's degree in artificial intelligence and machine learning. But what is the certificate? The certificate is not just, it's geared towards professionals. We've seen a lot of, with Intel at the table, a lot of engineering professional in the field. They already have a degree. They need just that upskilling and reskilling into the artificial intelligence. So the certificate is only geared to the professionals to take the 6 specific classes in artificial intelligence so they can get their skills up and continue working with Intel and other companies. And also we create a pipeline to dual enrollment. The dual enrollment, the high school, I strongly believe in educating while they're young, like get them their passion with, as early as preschool, but I know we're talking about K to 12. So we develop also, we're working with Chandler Unified and other high schools. Chandler-Gilbert has 22 high schools partners in dual enrollment. So we're trying to create that pipeline for the artificial intelligence, how the high school students can take classes, then come to Chandler-Gilbert, earning their associate degree and moving to the bachelor degree. I know you have lots of questions to that. And who, like I said, for us, it's very important for workforce, for the industry partner to be right there at the table and say, this is what I need. This is how the education can deliver that. This is what, and also what we came into the table and said, okay, we create this program, but the next step is, what are the jobs? Because everybody in the United States, what I learned since I came is we like data, we love data. So the many times that we have to start the data. There's not so much data. Every college that we talk in the nation, they start in artificial intelligence. One of the first questions is, what is the data in your jobs? What is the job market? What is the job titles? This is what you are the innovator. So we can work with the workforce to create those job profiles. It says it's not just an artificial intelligence label onto the job market. So the data is showing, because talking about the data is showing that we pull what are the skills and what are the industry sectors that are using some type of artificial intelligence. And again, by 2025, we'll see an increase of more than 20% into the job market that relates to some type of artificial intelligence. Either is that analytics, data structure, in engineering, in machine learning, in programming. Our program, of course, the programming language is Python, and again, Habib is going to address that more in depth. So this is what the job market shows by 2020, more than 21,000 jobs related to artificial intelligence within Arizona and, of course, nationwide. Some of the occupation, because I know everybody likes to look at some of the occupations, what are the titles, what are the occupations that are using the AI skills. Again, from my point of view, doing research and just learning a lot about artificial intelligence, it is from your business analyst to data structure, to data analytics, to engineering. Every single industry sector is using, or it will be using some type of artificial intelligence. Our Chandler-Gilbert, we recently added, before the artificial intelligence, we added the drone program. Also, Chandler-Gilbert has the only aviation and aerospace programs in medical marketing colleges. So some examples when we added the artificial intelligence program, it's not just a standalone. And the students across the program, they work together, from the cybersecurity, from the IT students, with the artificial intelligence, with the students in aviation. They work together when they work on a project. The artificial intelligence program, going back to that, it has one caveat, one course, the capstone course. Students, and again, I'm very advocate of that. It's the students have to leave the college with a real life project in hand to say, I did this, how this is going to relate to whatever industry is going to be. And this is what it makes it more unique and more hands-on. This is, as Cristina mentioned, this is our, we have actually 2 AI labs. One that is launched in March, and we couldn't have done it without the support of the Arizona Commerce Authority, of course, Intel and Dell, the equipment. I know we have, and I'm not gonna bore you with what type of equipment it is, but that is a pretty much a before, and we have the after lab. I wanted to show you. This is our lab, how it stands right now. And of course, the technology matters. And what I like about the AI, we use a lot of OpenGL. So we don't have to buy a license for a particular software, particular platform, so students can access. So we use a lot of products. And again, Habib is going to talk, he's passionate about that. And again, we could have built the program, but without faculty like Habib and Tom and other faculty went through the training, we couldn't have the program successful as it is, and we will not be the model in the country. I wanted to see the lab as we have the opening, if it works.
Is this the Foxnet?
Yes.
Maybe YouTube search.
It's on the YouTube. Oh.
You said it was on YouTube?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the YouTube.
Yeah, we just find it out. We just train up a picture. You just search AI Lab CGCC.
Yes.
That'll work.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatic.
East Valley Community College showing off a brand new cool program this morning.
So Desiree is live showing off the Artificial Intelligence Lab at Chandler-Gilbert Ministry about the community colleges. You don't have to go to Silicon Valley here, Des. We've got it for you right here.
Yeah, it's right here at home, so we can keep all our students right in the state. They're going to get a great education here at Chandler-Gilbert Community College and Estrella Mountain Community College. And we have both presidents here with us this morning, Dr. Ray Rivera and Dr. Greg Peterson. First of all, tell me about this partnership and what it took to put this lab together.
Yes, it was a coordination between our college, Jim Madison, Chandler-Gilbert Community College, and Intel. And so Intel has donated resources in terms of funding, equipment, and of course their curriculum, so that we can actually offer the students for all students in the county of Maricopa.
And I asked the two of you, I said, are you not competing colleges? Why work together? And you really had a great response to that. Tell us why.
So we're really able to leverage our resources in a better way to be able to provide greater access to this program across the valley. So we can keep more of our residents here and build our economies here.
And Habib is the instructor here within that program here at the college. So Habib, talk about the program and what artificial intelligence is.
So this program is really an initiative to bring first and second year students, those who are graduates from high schools or industry workers who want to reskill, to learn about artificial intelligence. But what is AI? That's the big question. It's traditional computing then reformed to be smarter.
So can you walk us to this computer over here? We'll swing around and there's photos flashing and you can see people on the screen. So for example, what is this going to be doing and how is this going to be working with teaching students?
So computers don't think like we do. When we see something, we recognize, hey, that's a person in front of me, right? Well, a computer needs to learn from many examples that that is indeed a person on the screen. So think like self-driving cars. You would want it to know that there's a person crossing the road. And so it can recognize, this gives a little bounding box here and a percentage of how much is recognized that you're in the photo.
And you also gave us gave me a good example earlier. It was like, oh, okay, that's artificial intelligence. Share that with everybody.
So when you unlock your iPhone with your face, you know, the Face ID, it needs to know that it is indeed your face. So we have to teach computers what that looks like. And so that's a perfect application of artificial intelligence.
And for both presidents, I mean, how are you guys feeling today, knowing students are getting, top of the line equipment and programming to really go through and complete these programs?
We're so excited to be able to provide this. This is what our future workforce needs. So we're really preparing our county to be successful moving forward. So excited to be here.
I'm sure the same, right?
Oh, exactly. We're preparing the workforce for the future. That's what the community colleges are all about.
Okay, awesome, you guys. So if you need more information, go to our website. We'll have it all for you there. We'll send it back to you for now.
So great.
It's exciting.
I know. Thank you.
The reason I wanted to show you, when we talk with all the colleges across the country and also in Canada and Puerto Rico now to implement the program, it's pretty much when we are asked, can we have your curriculum? It's not about the curriculum having the curriculum. For me, it's more the most expensive thing on the planet to buy is the knowledge. So, and the information. So for us, it's like when we talk with the colleges, like Cristina said, across the country and help them implement that. Community college, they need to come out of their shell and not be so shy and say, this is what we can do. But also is having Habib and train them instead of just giving them the curriculum, is train them and so they can think and say, how are we gonna make them better? Just because we develop the curriculum doesn't mean that somebody's gonna make it better than we have, so we can learn from each other. So going to the next, I'm sorry, now it's working, thank you. To the next slide, Habib is gonna talk. I wanted for you guys to know exactly what are our program ties into and what is the accomplishment after 2 semesters that our students achieve.
So we came into an interesting time in terms of AI. When I was going through school for AI, it was still very difficult to utilize the programs. But since then, a lot of libraries have made it a lot easier to implement AI. And so when that came upon us, we were able to start building something for first and second year students to learn about artificial intelligence. Our program features 6 classes, starting from an introduction to AI as one of the classes, then moving on to intro to machine learning. From there, we go into more domain-focused applications like computer vision and natural language processing. From there, we go into a business perspective with our business solutions for AI class. And last but not least, our capstone project to get some project experience under the belt of our students, their own design and sponsored, hopefully, by industry project. And so these projects also include a lot of Python focus, as well as math, engineering, and statistics, which we include in our associate's degree flow, but not necessarily our certificate. This is so we can service a large range of audience. It goes from the students who are coming from high school, maybe students who are already in their CS degree, but want to specialize specifically in AI, or industry workers who want to reskill. I've really seen a huge range of students come through this program. I've had students who have worked 30 years in industry working in the program. I've had students, I just found out last night, actually, that one of my students was 16 years old. So I have students that are 16, I have traditional students, I even have a student that has a psychology degree already and wants to change his career over to an AI focus. And their interests also are very varied. We talk about AI and how it can be applied in so many different places. The projects my students are doing are also such a wide range of projects. Right now in capstone class, we have students who are doing projects in cybersecurity. So one of the projects they're doing is reading through GitHub repos. So this is where people post their code, reading through code and trying to find if anyone has leaked passwords accidentally online for a company. Another one would be pill detection. So let's say you're an elderly person and you drop your morning pills. Can you use your phone and take a photo and have it tell you which pill is which if they get all mixed up? And then last but not least, a license plate detector to be able to automatically open up a secure gate for your specific car rather than having like a key pass or something like that. Think about like if you go to ASU, instead of having to get the hanger or the sticker, you could just put in your license plate number and then you could have them let your car in instead, make it a lot easier to streamline. So that's what our program builds up. We're really trying to give first and second year students some experience in the field itself. When I was going through school, it seemed as though when I was in my third or fourth year, I was learning about a lot of beginner topics in other fields. So let's say I would learn about cybersecurity, or I'd learn about cloud computing, or I'd learn about other CS topics. What this program tries to do instead is have you focus in on one field. You're focused on data analytics and artificial intelligence. And so when you come out of those 2 years, you can really say that you have a wide breadth of the topic rather than a mix of a bunch of other fields as well. As much as we would love to include all the other fields that would apply as well. Here is some student success that we had. So in October of 2021, so fall of last semester, Cristina actually had contacted me and said that they were doing an Intel On competition and we had a month to get projects ready. So we got to the grindstone, me and my students, and we tried to see what we could come up with. With that being said, I'll speak to the highlight, then I'll talk a little bit about the other projects that we submitted. But our highlight is we did end up winning first place in the global competition. This is against countries like China, Korea, Japan, I believe Russia was in there as well, India, Poland, and many more. So all of these had first and second year students who had submitted their projects as well. Our winners were our detecting epilepsy seizures using brainwave data. So the EEG sensor, you may have seen it, that you put on your head. Our students who had gotten data from a research institution on brainwaves, and we're trying to see if they could identify whether or not someone's having a seizure in that data. If they can identify it preemptively, then the medical assistants can come and assist before the seizure is oncoming in something called the preictal stage, which is before the seizure itself. So these three students here, Jeremy, Arnav, and Wyatt, were the winners of the global competition, along with 2 other teams from 2 other countries, and they had some sweet rewards in doing so. We had 4 total students participate. The 3 other projects, just because they're fun to mention. One of them was captioning real life. That's the title we used for it, which was being able to help those who may be blind, be able to like use a camera and be able to tell them where objects are in their room or what they are. Another one was, I'm now drawing a blank. I think another one was, traffic simulation. So can we improve the lights that we use, the street lights? Can we make them more optimal based on the amount of traffic that's coming through at particular times in the day? Right now, they're really just based on timers that you see outside. So instead, can we improve it by utilizing data and AI? This was called a reinforcement learning solution. So you just tried a bunch of simulations of a bunch of cars going through. And last but not least,
Optical avoidance.
Optical avoidance. Yes.
Optical, yeah.
Yeah. So optical avoidance. Apologies. I actually am having a hard time remembering the details.
Protecting first responders with AI guided.
There we go. The drone.
Yes.
Thank you, Cristina.
Thank you, Cristina. The drone.
So last but not least, we had a drone project. And actually, it's one of the more interesting ones, it's just funny. So we had a particular student group that loved drones, and they wanted to make a search and rescue bot in a sense, where they'd be able to fly a drone into a room, identify someone who's in the room, and then know its course back without any human interface. Of course, once again, I have to preface this. This is a 1-month project by first and second year students. Definitely a prototype in the space, but at the same time, awesome ideas and awesome prototyping being done. And think how widely varied those projects were. These students are doing amazing work, and I'm blown away. This is the first time in the country we've had like a program that's like this. So I don't know what's going to come out of it, and I've been very impressed and really happy to see that.
So I like to add, especially with Habib and Passion, when we look at the students from diverse background, either it's 16 or 35 or 40. When I talk with the students and you talk, everybody has a story, is we're looking to give the students careers, not a job, because there's a difference. They can have a job for 2 months, but they have their career for their life and their passion. So one of the students that won the competition, they said, I cannot believe that a year ago, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I have a brand new baby and we didn't have a home. Pretty much we felt homeless, and we just came upon the artificial intelligence program. With Habib in a classroom, it just opened the universe for me. And now I have a job with Intel. I have a career that I have the passion for it, and I'm buying a house. So those are the stories this is what we're here for. It's to give a career, not giving jobs and upskilling and work with the workforce, work with the industry together, because we cannot do it together by ourselves. I'm sorry. We, as a community college or as a higher ed institution, we cannot accomplish anything without the industry. We can produce jobs, but not careers, and not that partnership together. So.
We definitely stumbled our way through all of this learning as well. Once again, this is the first time, first and second year program. And with that being said, a lot of the subjects that are being taught are a combination of blog posts, articles, talented developers who have made it easier for new developers to come in. And so it's an accumulation of all that information, including the training we got from Intel, which was very much appreciated. And really helping us start this, right? Without Intel's support, there wouldn't have been such a mark of backing behind us. And so we really appreciate that as well. But I would also like to say, we also would love other industries as well to come in, give us a varied perspective on what we can apply for our local community, right? We can talk about all of the applications of AI that may work in other states. But right now, these students are at our local community college, and we want to support our local careers as well. And so having local companies come in, that's one of the next steps we see for the program, as well as working with high schools and K-12.
Thank you.
All right.
So we talked about using your phones and to be able to unlock our cell phones and facial recognition. None of us even knew that we needed that before. Seriously, my husband always needed it because he can never remember his passwords. But when you talk about that, that's now part of our everyday life, and we expect it. First it was the fingerprinting, now it's a facial recognition. So it's critical as we continue to move forward. So.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's so interesting. At one point, these were just research papers that universities released, and now it's becoming even more accessible as we see it in our everyday lives.
Well, don't sit down. And Cristina, if we can bring Cristina back up on screen, we're going to open it up for questions for everybody, because I mean, and if you haven't had the opportunity to go into the lab and see it, I would highly recommend that too.
Yes, well. Door is always open.
All right, questions from the group. Kurt.
Yeah, I mean, fascinating stuff. But the story you told at the beginning of walking up, I guess, to a kiosk where I had recognized who you were and started tailoring advertisements to your taste, I guess, or what you thought was. kind of sounds a little creepy. But here's the concern. And that is using this data to do some sort of social scoring on what you're doing and start to ranking people about, who we're going to prefer and we don't. And I've heard things about, if we don't like what you're doing, maybe your mortgage rate's going to go up another point because we think you're a social risk or something. But the other part to it is that, I work on school board issues. If I'm going to go meet with a parent or a teacher on a confidential issue, I don't want somebody tracking me to find out who I'm meeting with and then profiling that person about what their concerns are. That I think is a socially very dangerous thing. And I'm not seeing any way that that can be controlled. So the risk of this is very substantial at some point. So if you guys can kind of comment on how you're going to address that, it would be useful.
So addressing it in terms of the teaching first and second year students, we do teach about AI ethics, and it has a piece of that in it as well. I mean, it's not something, this is more of a governmental issue. You're speaking to how it would be regulated, right? There's a couple of things that come in with AI. So AI it uses data, it tries to find patterns within data. And so therefore it's very generalized to what the general trend would be of that data. And so when you're talking about things like applying for, let's say, applying for a loan or doing things along the lines of, let's say applying for a loan. You not only don't want to be marginalized because you don't fit the general trend, but you also don't want, or you also want to know why you were marginalized or why you got the score that you did or why you didn't get the credit loan. We should have transparency for those things. Often AI methods don't provide that. The mathematical computations that AI methods provide are powerful, but not as transparent as we would like. So with that being said, this is kind of the stance I take. AI shouldn't be applied to everything in some ways, and regulating that should be done on the governmental as well as the company itself should regulate that. But we say one thing and another thing happens, and not so much as our control in that, but we can also educate the public about what is going on behind the scenes. Even in our intro to AI class, we talk about AI ethics and what some of the systems are, such that the general public can get some idea of why or how AI is being used.
And what I wanted to say is I'm going back to cybersecurity. So while in industry, I work a lot with the government institutions, and we did a lot of the cybersecurity regulations. And when the internet started, we had a couple of the issues that would work. But being in Europe and talking at the Oxford Roundtable, it's pretty much you flood the gate. So who's going to control the cyberspace? The same with AI. You can have the laws and regulations, the cyber laws, and the government of all the countries in the EU. They coming together and say, okay, we have to do so many laws, from the drones to the space to the cybersecurity. Who's going to do fraud? But going back to your point is, it's easier to go back to the pencil on paper, and actually, there's no different from somebody taking your pictures and getting your ID on your credit card when you go and buy something in a store. It's easier that way than going into cyberspace. So that's something that a human being is. When you unlock something, somebody else behind the door is going to unlock what you lock. So it's more on the, I always say, common sense than, and with Tom and everybody says, okay, common sense does not exist anymore, but I'm still relying on a common sense. So that's not an answer that is going to, as we unlock the technology and work on, that's something that doesn't matter how many laws you have, you're still going to have somebody who's going to unlock what you did. So,
Cristina, do you have anything to add?
I mean, just reiterating what they said, that it's really more of a data privacy issue. It's not specific to AI, and it's all about what policy is in place, right? And that varies around the world. Just specific within our program of, like Habib mentioned, is we do talk at the very beginning class about ethics of AI, because we want the students to have at least look with a lens of, is this somewhere that I should or shouldn't apply AI? So that's what we're doing for our part.
And biases.
And to follow
We did talk as well about biases in models and data sets. So that's another aspect as well, which is why we need more AI practitioners, because the more diverse our population of AI practitioners are, just naturally, the less bias there will be in some of those models.
That's great information. And on the cybersecurity component, Ashley from our team has put together a great panel for our next public policy meeting that we're talking about cybersecurity. So you'll have to come for that one. But also with the AI, for instance, when we get in our cars now, you can sit down and that artificial intelligence tells me whether I'm driver 1 or driver 2 and adjust my seat accordingly too as well. I never knew I needed that, but I really like that. So, I mean, those are some of the things. Other questions, Susan?
Once you start the program, how long does it take till you get your certificate?
So it's a 2-year program. So the first class is a no prerequisite class. So any student looking to get into the field can start from there.
Terry.
Now that we've gone through the 2-year program and we have these wonderful ideas that are coming out of these lovely students, how do we continue that program for them? Because I want to know that somebody with epilepsy can have those alerts going off and getting the help they need, or the military has those drones, etc. So how do we continue that support for those students after that?
So being at the forefront, it makes it a little bit difficult because let's say we have an associate's degree in AI right now, or a certificate in AI, but it also takes work in saying, you know, we do have this certificate to local industries, right? How do they know that our certificate is credible in comparison? Then on top of that, an associate's degree is usually not in the minimum qualifications for being hired. And so it's work on our side. We're working on potentially coming up with a bachelor's degree. Also, we have a couple of universities nearby that we're working with for articulation as well. So that's where we see. But right now, that's one of the things it's hard to tell my students, you know, that they're graduating right now, but that is not in place, but it's something we're working on.
Great.
I was just going to add, oh, sorry, can I just add for those the AI competition that we had last year, Intel's also offering some mentorship to those students that had global winning prizes to give them additional maybe coaching on how they could take their project to the next level. So
great. We've got a question here with Diego and then over here with Brian.
I just had a comment on that. I think in some degree, just that you just need to kind of blow that narrative up. Like, why does he keep the bachelor's degree? Like, can he just take his ideas and just go magnify them times 1,000, right? I mean, don't waste your time sometimes with book study. Just go create something really cool. I mean, one thing I really enjoyed about all this is what you're trying to do is create this capstone experience at the end where go do something real life, right? Go create a mechanism that tells someone you're about to have a seizure, sit down. Right? And I've always felt that some of these technologies are so inaccessible, like in Intel, these other guys are developing them. But today I felt, oh my gosh, they're right in my backyard. Why shouldn't I go to lunch with you and talk to you about maybe what your students can do in my company, right? And I think that's really cool. I think you need to really just continue to get that word out. Hey, right here in Chandler-Gilbert, Maricopa County, there's some really cool programs. We could take your information and do something with it that gets out to the community like right today, right? You can find the funding to create little stuff. People are so interested in developing this. So this was an excellent presentation in my opinion.
Great. I love hanging around and learning in these projects. You're right. It amazes me. That's why I said, get out there and go through that lab. Brian.
So woman on screen, I'm sorry. She touched on this earlier, but my question is the importance of the algorithms in this and, you know, the unconscious bias that we are finding that goes into what exactly are you guys teaching as far, or what are the methods you guys are using to remove those unconscious biases? And that piggyback off kind of what Kurt was saying earlier, particularly when we're talking about things like crime prediction software, which are going out, you know, in various things around the country. The next part of my question, although admittedly it's a bit facetious, but some of the people who designed this technology have suggested as much as, you know, are we living in the matrix? And how do you guys respond, to those student editors, and those ethical questions when, larger pictures come up.
And I will adjust with Cristina. As like I said before, we teach, when I started teaching in higher ed, I started with teaching ethical hacking. So for the first class, what I didn't realize is, okay, I need to teach you first ethics. But what I didn't realize is that I have to draw a contract to tell students, okay, you should not breach into the college's network first just because it's fun. So I learned that. And so my network administrator say, hey, Gabriela, your students are actually penetrating into our system and they broke the network. I said, well, that's good because now we know what gaps we have. But the same thing with this is on biases is we teach the students the ethics and we teach them to be unbiased. However, they're human beings. And the same thing, we may control the machines, but the human beings are human beings. So when they go and get a job, that's up to them what they do with the knowledge. If they don't carry the torch of the ethical part, it's going to turn to something else. But it's all about what can you do? How are you going to make it better? When I look at the health industry, there's so many unknown questions that with the AI or with programming, you can answer those. You can find an answer. We may not find the answer to the common cold, but we find answer to the epilepsy, for example. But looking at the students in our programs, and look in our backyard, I look at them in the classroom when I go and walk around, they get so many ideas. It's that they solve the problems from their own life, their own experiences, and how they're gonna apply it. So when you, as a company, you have a gap where it says, I want to identify something, give it to the kids and they come up with a solution so fast because they see it through a different lens. But again, going back to your point, we teach ethics. It's what you do with those ethics
but it's like, the crime prediction software, the ultimate goal of that is like, are people just born in prison?
So
that's a good question.
I can speak a little bit to like the flow of what we teach for the ethical side. So in the introduction class, we teach about, we start off with what countries are developing solutions to AI, where are papers coming from? And we see, often it is in India, the United States, Russia, China, a lot of the world powers in a sense, or especially in AI. What about underrepresented countries? So we talk about that. We talk about are we losing perspective from underrepresented countries and what their perspective is of life and applying AI, right? We just talked about the chair adjusting, to our needs. That's a very our type of solution that we've come up with, right? But what about solutions for those who are underrepresented in third world countries, right? I mean, I'm half Lebanese. I'm from Lebanon, third world country, and so I've been there multiple times, seen what the livelihood of them is compared to us, and so I can see where those solutions could apply there in that sense. So we talk about those things in that class, and then we also talk about what guidelines other countries are coming up with. In terms of regulation, I haven't seen so much a pin on regulation where it's at least interpretable for our students for artificial intelligence or data or how it's being used. It's still something that the governmental side is catching up to and how to regulate. I think we're becoming better and better about it as more cases are at the forefront, right? We see something blow up and we're like, oh, we got not blow up literally, but like blow up data wise. And then we go and fix that thing. And then we find out, hey, our regulations or our policies are not up to date or keeping up. So with that being said, we talk about what other countries outside of the United States as well as within the United States, what the guidelines on regulations are. From there, they learn about these things, these concepts. And when you learn about a concept, you understand how it's working to where you can understand whether it is being misused or not. And that's where we hope that our students have the peace of mind that they're trying to do better for the world.
And that's where then you tie in the policy people that are learning policy, and then so that you can really help make that difference. And
this class is in in, it's actually the lawmakers, they need to take those classes and the industry. And industry are the driving force that, you know, everybody, that's part of our job. It's not just the education. Sorry, Cristina. Go ahead.
I was just going to add, a lot of it is awareness. So those bad cases that we've seen in bias in models, it usually wasn't intentional. The person didn't go out saying, I want my facial recognition to be biased against people with darker skin. They didn't have that intent. It's just that they didn't think broad enough, right? So by making the students aware that bias exists, right? It's innate in all of us. How do we address that? Hopefully it helps reduce it. And then the second thing we really didn't mention is that the reason why our program is so different is because in the US, if you want to go get a degree in AI, typically it's a master's or PhD level. It's very hard even at a bachelor's degree to get access to AI curriculum and coursework. So this is very different in that we're approaching a community college audience. As Habib mentioned, that intro class has no prereq, right? And we know that traditionally people get turned off from technical career paths because they may not have a math, prereq, right? So we're eliminating that barrier to really get a broader audience interested in this technology. And yes, if they do a full degree, they'll need to do some math and some coding, but let's get people interested at that very entry level. And then they're willing to invest the time and build some of these skills. So I think that's also part of how we're addressing bias is by providing a more diverse set of AI practitioners with this program. So there'll be more diverse views and hopefully help lower that bias within the models and the data sets.
Any other questions?
You mentioned dual enrollment courses potentially at the high school level. Is that all 6 courses? Is that just the intro class?
They have to have the prereq, so we are just in a stage to work to map that pathway because they do have to have Python, for example, before they take their classes. And it's only so much time in a period in a high school. So we try to map and get to what level they get so they can come and complete associate and of course move forward. But I wanted to go back to what you said as a bachelor's degree in one, and I don't want to take too much time. When we came with Intel on the table and my experience prior from my previous institution working with a lot of industry and higher education, it's as an IT director, I want to have a programmer. By the time from that company goes to the HR adds to the prestige of that company. So I'm adding that individual has to have a PhD, a master's degree, without having the knowledge what actually that individual is going to do. Because the job skills of a programmer, for example, or a software engineer is the same. If they don't have the basic, programming logic, doesn't matter if they know one language or 1,000, it's the same thing. So I think for us, like industry and higher ed coming together and realize the job profiling is not exactly, you don't need a PhD to do something like this. You can have an associate degree, and it's not because an associate degree, somebody with no degrees can have that innovation and look. And again, the internet is, you just open up to the sky and just pick what you learn from the internet. But it's giving that education and open the mind, I can do this, I can have the passion for this. You need a degree because again, I'm in higher education, I went through industry and so many areas, but you have to look in a different way. Like companies and higher education have to work together.
All right, we got another question over here.
So to that point, how do we foster that further real world collaboration between community college, industry, governance, et cetera?
So when we met, before Cristina, when we had the first conversation with Intel was Carlos Contreras. So when Carlos has said, and
Carlos.
I love it. And there were, of course, other executives from Intel. So when we sat at the table, the first question that after we, you have your coffee and all the goodies, says, okay, if we're ready to have uncomfortable discussion at the table, then we're ready to start this discussion and have the program. Because they're uncomfortable. I said, you as an industry are global recognized, but us, community college, everybody's looking like this, that, oh, we're technically, whatever the title, then the label is gonna be. For me, it's an education. So once we started to say, we are here, we're gonna have conversation, they're not polite, but we come to a conclusion. And that's when we realized, yes, I don't know what, and Carlos came and said, Gabriela, we are struggling. Says, we can hire people with AI, but we don't know what are the skills. So those are the conversations when we come to the table and not just pretend that we're having a good lunch and not have the actual discussions.
Yeah, so there's got to be action
Yes.
after it, and then there's got to be real world applications for it as well. Not just my 2 cents, not just the capstone, but
Exactly.
beyond the capstone.
And that's what Intel sits at the table, and they put their money where the mouth is. Sorry, Cristina. This is where the industry comes into it. We have to be really good partners and say, this is, you know, how we're going to take the project with epilepsy, for example, how we're going to take it to the next step. So with our health industry, with the Banner Health, how we're going to take this project that is good. This is what our students did, and now how are we going to make it better with that student money? So this is how we work together. This is how I work and we work.
Well, and Gabriela, it might also be worth mentioning, right? Chandler-Gilbert traditionally has industry advisory councils in different departments. So this is a key point as well. Like we and Chandler-Gilbert need that input on where do local businesses need help, right? So that they can kind of steer the students and the examples in classes to be what the local job market needs. So that's the connection point, right? We want these students to get jobs. So that's why we're here talking today, right? Is how can you help us connect to local opportunities? We can talk a lot about the skills that the students come out with. Yeah, it's different than someone with a PhD, but they can absolutely apply AI models to a unique situation. So reach out to, I think, to Rosu and Habib.
One of the points advisory, sorry, well, the advisory council that we have, thank you, Cristina, for reminding me, it's the advisory council, we put them to work. It's not just, again, it's what can you do for us and how can we help growing together as a local industry, local college to a global mentality and global addressing.
And I do sit on that, on Chandler-Gilbert Community College, their advisory council too. And that was one of the things that Dr. Peterson is very passionate about. And then they have them within each of the each of the programs, they have different advisory councils within there as well. Vice Mayor, joined us. Vice Mayor, you had a comment back there?
I did, and it's a great conversation, and it's so, I just love hearing this because, and I think that education, the more that they will put students first, the more success that they will have, and that goes all the way down to K through 12. I mean, can a student that graduated from high school with some additional training teach kindergarten through 3rd grade? And the answer is yes. And but you got to put the students first and deliver the best product. And so everybody wants a PhD,
Yes.
but can you afford it? And so a lot of stuff gets left on the table by not being real. So good comments.
Well, and one of the things, and I'll use Jason because he and I were having this conversation earlier, and I think that's one of the misnomers too. In certain positions in any company, you do have to have that 4-year degree, but there are also entry-level positions. Jason and I were just talking about, he's got entry-level factory positions that are opened at both their sites here in Chandler. And where you get them in, get them a little taste of what they're doing, and then they can grow into those positions or into other areas. And most employers will pay for education and additional training and so forth. So that's what we have to change. Not everybody has to have a 4-year degree to work at a semiconductor company or an Intel. There are positions that are open, and how do we open those gates and dispel some of those myths?
Yeah, and I just want to speak to the quality of the education at the community college level. I've been so impressed working specifically with Maricopa County Community College District, as well as other colleges around the country. But just to brag a little bit about Habib, he is amazing in the classroom. He really is. Like the time he invests, and he truly cares about making sure that the students, about the whole student, right? Yes, that they learn, but what is their journey right now? What are their goals? And speaking to some of his students, they talk about, hey, there was one person I was talking to, I took an elective from Habib, and then I enjoyed it so much. Now she's doing the certificate program. So it's smaller classes. He gets to know the students. It's the latest technology. And I can't speak highly enough. I've just been so impressed seeing what's coming out of the classroom there.
Thank you. And
Thank you, Cristina.
Cristina, he's blushing. He's definitely blushing.
He's really, and now they say, Habib's father is one of our engineering faculty too. But going back to that, we had my previous institution where I worked in the higher ed, we had open houses. So coming students to the open house, I see them and it kind of dawned on me. I come from a different culture. So from my culture that I came from, your path is set for you in kindergarten. It's pretty much said, okay, you're gonna go this way, and you develop that. So learning through that. So when I see students coming to the open house with the parents, it's not the student who came and said, what is this program? It's the parents. Is my kid is going to have a job, how much money is going to make? And you see the child sitting, I would say child, because even if it's 16, 18, sitting in the back and said, okay, that's not what I wanted to do. So you always try, I started to talk with the kids. I say, I respect you. I'm going to be a parent one day. But it's talking with the students, saying, what do you want it to do? Because all comes to the passion. It's you're not selling again. When I see people, and I see people like from 35, 40 coming back and say, now I want to have my career. I had a job all these years and I hate it. I just make the money because I need to pay this, which is understandable. But I want to do what I love, and it's career. And that's what I'm rooting always to get them from the kindergarten and say, what is your passion? Doesn't matter if you want to draw or you want to sing or you want to be in whatever the field, a doctor. Not everybody's going to be a doctor. Not everybody's going to be an engineer. But what is your passion? Because that's where the students are shy. And right now we are in the social media game space, cyberspace, that the generations, even I would call it the older generation, like me, in the 40s, it's you are used with in a space in the gaming industry. I wanted to be in that space that nobody's going to judge me. How are you going to relay that to your career? Come down and how are you going to make that? So I agree with you guys here. It's great. It's the students first.
Alan, you have another question?
No, I don't.
Oh. All right. Any further questions for our panelists?
I have a more general
Jason.
question for Habib. What's the difference between AI and machine learning, and any examples of machine learning that you can elaborate on?
It's a really good question. So machine learning is specifically learning from data. So AI is more generalized than that. It encompasses, if I were to have like a diagram here, AI, and within it is machine learning, right? And within that's deep learning. That's the usual flow. And then AI can be like, it doesn't necessarily need data to utilize AI. Most of what we do now in computing is machine learning, which we tie to AI. But AI is really the idea of the field of like, let's say we as humans, we can see someone and recognize their face, again, pretty easily. Even like in children, we see that, right? In comparison, AI needs hundreds and thousands of examples of human faces to be able to understand what a human face looks like. So that's more of the machine learning from the AI. AI is a broader scope.
Thank you.
Great. No problem. All right. Well, let's give this panelist. I'm sorry that you can't feel the energy in the room, but I know people want to learn more and more about this, so thank you. And I love learning about the best practices and what's next. So any further questions, if you want to, you can also shoot them to the chamber. We can get them out to our panelists, and then we will go ahead and share today's presentation with each of you. I just want to do a shout out to our sponsors, Intel Air Products, ASU, and Wells Fargo, as well as Representative Pollock and Vice Mayor Rowe for being here. Thank you so much, and please enjoy the rest of your day. Okay.